We are here in the studio today with Greg Collins, one of the best digital artists we have the pleasure of knowing. Greg, thanks for coming in the studio.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Scott.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to having you here. The skill sets that you bring, that you, Greg Collins, bring to digital art is the amount of time that you've been in it, the thoroughness with which you have used the tools over time, and the fact that all of these tools still need human interaction.
Growing up, I wanted to be a Disney animator. Like, I desperately wanted to be a Disney animator. But I wanted to be, and I'd fiddle around with drawing. And then high school, I'm like, okay, my brother's friend knows how to draw. Let's go take lessons. And so I took some lessons. I got a little better. I did some drawing, but I never really picked it up. And finally, I got to college. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buckle down. I'm going to do this. Yeah. And I took some art classes, and I was kind of enjoying them, but I made the non-artistic mistake of procrastinating. I had like 6 large, drawings that I had to do,
in 2
pencil
hours.
drawings.
You're going to walk away.
And they were all due at the end of the semester, and I hadn't done them. And so I sat and did all of them, and I burned myself out.
Yeah.
And my teacher's like, you're pretty good. I want you to come back. And I'm like, no. I'm not coming back. Yeah. And so at that point, I had to finally admit to myself that maybe this isn't really what I want to do. And so that's when I got into the computers and started doing that. But it always deep down inside,
Never went away.
It was eating at me. You want to do art. You want to do art. And I couldn't justify doing it until the digital art came about. And I could do it in that short amount of time I had because I'm a full-time job. I've got 6 kids. I have, a calling in church. And I got taxes to do. I've been, having my own little business forever, and so I always have taxes to do. And so I had all these things. I don't have time to sit and do all this. And so when digital art became a reality, and I could sit down and do something in a half hour to 2 hours, that was like life to me. I could finally become artistic again and do what in my heart I wanted to do. I always wanted to be able to take the visions I had in my head and put them on paper, but I never could because by the time I started putting it on paper, the vision was gone out of my head. Because it just took too long. And that's why I wanted to increase my art skills. But somewhere I just had to finally admit to myself, you don't really want this as much as you say you do. It's like the person who says, I want to play the piano, but they don't ever bother
want to
practicing the piano. They don't really want to. They want the final result. I wanted to be an artist without the process of becoming an artist. Yeah. And so when digital art became a reality, it gave me that outlet that I needed. Yeah. Because I've always loved computers anyway. Yep. So now I had 2 loves together. I had computers and art that I could merge together into one whole thing. My family is very artistic. Okay. My mom is very artistic. I've got a painting of hers hanging up in my house that she did. My sister was very artistic. She did a lot of stuff with watercolor, photography. My brother was into photography.
I got a couple of my grandmother's pieces. They're awesome. It's great to have them.
Yeah. My sister was into photography. I got into photography. Sorry. Yeah. I did photographing gymnasts for a long time, and that was a lot of fun. But there's a piece of software, and I can't remember what it's called, but you could take your photograph, and it would apply these different painting styles to it. Yeah. So you could pick a different style, and it would just sit and iterate over the picture really broad and nothing to look at first, and it would get more and more detailed as it went. So what I did is I went through. They had a forum set up, and people would post their pictures that they've done with this software, and then they would say what they did, how they did it. And so I went through, paid like 100 pages of this stuff, and I'd capture a picture that I liked and the process that they went through, and I'd paste it into Microsoft Word, and I'd capture all these ones, and then I just spent like a whole weekend learning what they did to make such good pictures out of it. Yeah. And then I became one of the better artists using the software. Because what most people would do is they just run it until it just looked like a messy photograph. Yeah. When you let it go so long. They didn't understand the process you have to do, cut it off early, and then you go into Photoshop and you take that same picture and you get lines out of it. Yeah. And then you take those and you merge them together and you do some other stuff and you put some texture on there. And so some of my earlier works were the LDS temples in watercolor style using this process. So I'd create a watercolor base with it. I'd create an outline, mask the two together, and then I would get some watercolor texture and some paper texture. Put all those together, fix all the lighting and stuff like that, and that's how I really got started with it.
I'll come back to that time and time again. Where's the soul? Where's the soul? You've talked about all this time and energy that you put into every single piece. That's the human element. You're still using tools, but you are guiding this human element no differently than a painter with a paintbrush. And it's at the heart, I would still say it's at the heart of digital art today. And that's just so missed. People don't pick up on that. From the beginning, you've been seeking aesthetic beauty.
Yes. Yeah, so for my work, and I guess we should talk about this. For my work, you'll notice that they all look painted. And that's intentional. I want my images to look painted. Why? Because I like it. Yeah. I like that painted look, and it's not something I've ever tried it, honestly. I've never really picked up a brush. I can't say that. Little kids kind of stuff. I picked up those kind of brushes. And
I picked up a brush by that definition.
Those are all horrible, The paints are horrible. The watercolors are horrible. The brushes are horrible. And the medium that you're painting on is horrible. Everything was horrible.
Everything was horrible.
So I can't say I've ever really tried painting. I also I'm allergic to chemical smells. And so a lot of things I'm not interested in trying either. But I want my images to look painted because I like it and because I think audiences like that.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of photography that's also very interesting, and there's a lot of other digital works that are interesting in the illustrations. And I've done some illustrative kind of works too, but I like the painted look. It's something I intentionally emulate, and I don't want it to look painted like, oh, that's AI painted. I want it to look painted like, oh, that's hand painted. Yeah. Now, is that disingenuous of me? It's a tool. That's what the tool does. And I want the tool to do the thing it does.
What you do in Painter.
Yeah.
You tried to make it look like paint. To me, there's no difference.
To me, this is the outcome I want, and the tool will allow me to create it. So I use the tool to do what I want. And even before, when I was using the other software, I put my own photograph in there. I wanted it to come out looking like it was painted. I didn't want it coming out like a dirty photograph, which is what happens if you run it too long. Yep. So
you gravitated to Christian art.
Yes.
What do you hope your Christian art does in somebody's home? What do you hope that picture does in somebody's home?
I want it to inspire them. I want it to enlighten and enliven them. I want them to look at it and feel happier and feel more safe and secure and to feel closer to God. Mm-hmm. I want when people experience, not just look at, but I want them to experience the art in a way that makes them want to grow closer to their Savior.
Do you prefer to create imagery that is a portrait of Christ or Christ interacting with people?
Both. It really just depends on the mood I'm in at the moment. So a lot of my, because with AI art, it can be very spontaneous. Mm-hmm. I use it spontaneously. So as I come up with an idea in my head, I'll try it out. Yeah. And I'll see if it's something that's going to work. And if it's not, I might, alter what I'm putting in and seeing if I can still get it to work, but maybe I just set it aside. Yeah. But it's very spontaneous. As ideas come into my head, I try them out and see. And sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised, and other times I'm like, whatever. Yeah. It's not going to work.
What has been your most successful piece of art?
Well, there's two, I would say. The first big hit was Comfort the Children. Okay. And that's where Christ is holding this little girl who's crying, and he's just holding her against his chest, and he's got his hand wrapped around her, and she's got these tears in her eyes, and it's just this very touching piece that was very well received, and I was surprised how well received it was.
Instantaneous thought, or was it something you were working towards?
I worked toward that one a lot. Yeah. I probably went through several hundred to several thousand variations before I came up with that one. Now I've got another one, which is the one with him holding a boy, because that was requested. Like, well, you have this girl, do you have one with a boy? And so I went back through the images I had done and found one that was like that. Actually, I don't know if I went back and found one or I went back and created a new one at the time. It's been long enough now, I don't remember. I think I had found one that I had already done. And
it strikes me it's not your speed to, here's this image I have, now I'm going to replace the head and it's going to be a boy, and now I'm going to, you went out and said, no, generate new.
Yeah, I want it to look different. Because was the, I don't know, maybe for some people to have the same exact image but with a boy and a girl swapped out, maybe for them that's great because they like the overall structure and look of the image, and they would just like to have a boy version of it. But for me, it should look different. I don't want to have side-by-side pictures of a boy and a girl that look identical, the same picture. For me, it needs to look different. It needs to look unique. And so I was not looking for the exact same poses.
So a piece like 5 Wise Virgins.
Yes, that's the other really popular one. That was a huge process. So I tried to create that image in version 3 of Midjourney, and I got nowhere with it. I tried to make that image in version 4 of Midjourney, and I got nowhere with it. Finally, version 5 came out, and it hit. Within the first 3 tries, I was like, oh, wow, I like that one.
This is a big move forward.
And so, like I say, in those early versions of Midjourney, you couldn't just take one picture because it had so many things still wrong with it. So I would create variations of it, and I probably had 5 variations of it that I would layer together. And I still, even once I selected all the different pieces and parts, like the 5 girls, there was, I think 2 of them are from different variations of it. They have different faces and they're wearing different clothing, and there's portions like maybe the lower portions that got swapped out, or hands that got swapped out, and it's still, I think at the very end, one of them wasn't holding a lamp, so I had to copy a lamp from somewhere else and put it in and try to change it enough to where it didn't look like the other same lamp.
Yeah.
And then I went in and gave highlights, stronger highlights to their faces, and made sure that their eyes were sparkling, and a whole bunch of things with that one.
You made a funny comment before where you're like, okay, people really like this. I'd like to try to do the 5 unwise virgins. And I like the way you had said, but AI couldn't grapple with the concept I was trying to explain.
Yeah, it might now. I've not tried it. But at the time, so I had this idea of showing them kind of like one of them's banging on the closed door, and the other ones are, kind of like falling into, or like they're crying and they're like desperate to get in, but the door's closed now. Yeah. And now they finally got their lamps and they've got their oil, but they can't get in now. The door's closed. But I couldn't get. I would get stuff kind of close, but nowhere near what I was envisioning. Yeah. And again, AI art, you might just get something lucky, but I try to envision what I want, and although AI will do what it thinks I want, sometimes we match up. Yeah. But then, like I was saying earlier, is that as I thought about it, I'm not really sure that the 5 unwise versions is something that people are going to want to hang on their wall. Yeah, maybe for like an article.
I'm about to say, it strikes me as a good illustration. Yeah, and it's going to have an illustration market.
It's not that it shouldn't be done, and I may still do it, but it's not like the 5 wise versions. That's something worth hanging on your wall because it's inspiring, it's motivating, it teaches you what you should be doing. And while the 5 unwise versions could still do that in a sense, unless it's like a really beautiful picture. Yeah. I just don't know if that's something that someone's going to want to buy and hang on their wall.
Yeah. So we've got a couple that, your style progresses, and it sounds like it's progressing with how AI and everything else like that's moving forward. This last batch of paintings that you've shared with us, these are all very painterly. From you take the kind of early watercolor feel to what was going on, to where you've got a really full-on painted end product.
Where you can see the brushstrokes and the thick paints.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, you're saying, this is where I want to get to. Are we going to see more and more of this out of you? Is this where you're evolving to?
So the hard thing with AI versus someone who paints on canvases is the consistency. So, like version 4 of Midjourney, I absolutely love the style of painting that it did, which they've never been able to replicate in any of their later versions. I can't get anything like it. But it was so terrible at certain things that it was, you go through hundreds of pictures to find one that was usable.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful. I just absolutely love that style. And I've tried to replicate it. They have this style replicator where you can feed it a whole bunch of your old pictures and it will try to replicate that style, but it still doesn't come anywhere close to what it used to do. So because each version is a different model, trained differently, using different images, you're never going to get that same style each time there's a new version out. So every time a new version comes out, as an AI artist, my style is going to change. And not that I want it to, it just will.
Yeah.
I don't have control of that, other than to go back to all those archived pictures that I haven't touched yet and pull some of those out. But then, so I'm gonna have a lot of inconsistency in my styles over the years. You're gonna watch this change from this is how it looked during this time frame, this is how it looked during the second time frame, this is how it looked during the third, and so it's gonna change. So this one right now, it's beautiful and I love it. And I'm more focused on this new style than I am on the old one. But Midjourney version 8 just released, so I'm only produced maybe 40 pictures with that so far, and I haven't even really played with it. So I don't know what that'll do yet, and I might do more with that. So it's hard to say.
So it's not like, oh, I kept my old copy of 4. That's
well,
not.
It's still there. I can still use it.
You can still use
for
it.
I don't know how long, until they decide they're no longer going to maintain it.
Give the computer space, because all that computation and everything's not happening on your computer.
No.
Everything's rendering out in this other spot, and they're going to sit there one day and say, like you said, turning that off.
Yeah. And for right now, I can still use it. And I have actually gone back and tried to recreate some of that. And I found a few that I like that I'll probably eventually work on. But the hard part also is that you can create so much content that keeping up with it is very difficult. So I'll have, 50 of them that I like and maybe 10 that I can work on. And by the time I can get to work on the other 40, I've already got a whole new set of, 200. So now do I work on the new ones or do I continue to work on the old ones? Because I don't have time to work on all of them.
Yeah.
So I have to be really picky and choosy. And so I become more choosy about what I work on because of that, to try to pick things that will have more impact outside of myself. I like it still. Yeah. I wouldn't work on it if I didn't like it. But I try to be more choosy to make sure that whatever I'm working on will have a stronger impact outside of me.
What's the best story that you've had related back to you about your art?
So I've had a number of people contact me through Instagram when I was first putting on the portraits of Jesus, the ones that we're using Midjourney for. And a number of them have talked about how they've had near-death experiences. Different people, different scenarios. One was scuba diving and nearly drowned, other situations for different people. But they've talked about how when they nearly died, that they saw the face of Jesus and it looked just like my painting. Cool. And I was like, I didn't know how to take that. It was really awkward because, while I didn't paint it, Midjourney painted it, so to speak, it was still, my initial vision of what I wanted, and I used my concept of what I think Christ would look like in order to pick from all the different versions I had. And so I would pick the ones that I thought looked most like Christ. But then you get these people coming on and writing to me saying, that is the face I saw when I died or nearly died.
Yeah.
And it's powerful. I mean, it's deeply powerful. And I wasn't sure how to respond to it. Because they're like, your painting of Christ. And I'm like, well, in some ways I painted it. In some ways I didn't paint it. I was like, not physically painted it, but.
AI's going out and pulling from a gazillion reference points.
Sure.
You're almost getting the most popular version.
Yeah, and there's a fairly good consistency I've seen in the faces of Jesus over all the different models AI models I've used, you know, you get variety, and some of them, like I was telling you earlier, some of them I'm looking at them like, that's not Jesus, that's like Paul or, you know, John, or so that's like someone else. Even though I was requesting, you know, Jesus, I would come up with his face. I'm like, that I can't use that because that doesn't, to me, it doesn't look like Jesus. Maybe to someone else it would. And when I get these paintings or these images that come out, I'm not super picky that they all look the same, because I know everybody has a different version of what they think Jesus looks like. For some people, he's olive skin. For some people, he's white skin. For some people, he's black, you know, almost African. And while I may not be like that broad in my thing, because I have my vision of what I think he looks like, my vision is broad enough to allow for variation in there. And so I don't work too hard to try to make Jesus look the same in all my pictures. And if you look at all my pictures, you'll see he doesn't look the same in practically most of them. And that's okay for me, because I think it's okay for other people, because you won't see Jesus in your mind the same way I see him, and neither of us will see him the way someone else will see him.
I look at a lot of pictures, and I'm like, oh, I can tell these 4 different artists use this guy as his model. You know when all that's kind of coming through, and it is an advantage of the AI version, your ability to so quickly move and choose and go between things, because anybody that's doing a decent figure painting is pulling something from a good piece of scrap or a model or real life or something. I know a bunch of artists that, like you do, they mix up who their models are, and they're good enough that they can make changes to the physical construction of a face. There's a whole bunch of people, if it ain't in a photo, you ain't getting it.
So where's all this going, I guess we could ask? AI is not going anywhere, first of all. And as you could look back through history, and I know I was talking about this a long time ago, and now I see a lot of other people running these same thoughts. When you first introduced the automobile, the horse and buggy crowd was just livid that, you know, everything's going away. And it's not that it all went away, because you can go to New York and still take a horse and buggy ride. Right? It's just
Central Park.
It's just changed. They're not as prominent. Sure, things have changed. And what I like to say is the landscape changed. You had, you know, people playing concerts, and then records came out, and you didn't have to go to a concert anymore. You could just listen to it at home. But concerts are still here. In fact, they're probably more popular than ever, because it's not the same experience, first of all. And then you had movies came out, and the people doing plays were just like, it's going to ruin our whole everything, you know? But they still exist, and they coexist together. But over the years, if you look, you know, airplanes ruined the shipping industry, and trains ruined the horse wagons.
Trucking
and stuff.
ruined the train.
Trucking ruined the train.
Yeah.
Everything's ruining everything, but it changes the landscape. And AI is not going to destroy everything, but it will change the landscape. There'll still be artists who paint by hand and draw and everything, and that will never go away. In fact, their work is going to become more valuable because of it.
Agree 100%.
And like we were mentioning earlier, if you went out to the store and you bought something that was manufactured versus something that was handmade, you're going to pay more for the handmade item. And for me, as a digital artist, I cannot give you an original ever. Unless I go in and hand paint it. But I can never give you an original. And that's something that they can look at and say, I can give an original. That's what makes me unique. I can still sell prints, but I can give you an original. And that original is worth more. Way more. And it's a different concept. So AI is, you know, here for the writers. It's here for the artists, it's here for the musicians, it's here for the movies,
it's here for the actuaries,
for
it's
the
here
programmers,
for, think of all
it's
the
here
people,
for the lawyers, whatever. You know, everyone is going to be affected by this, and the people who learn how to use it are going to benefit from it. So how do I view myself in all this? So I view myself kind of in the same role that George Lucas played when he did Star Wars. So George Lucas, he says, I created Star Wars. But did he? He wrote the script, right?
Yeah.
I write scripts to generate images. Okay, I wrote the script. He wrote the script, and then he was involved in every step of the way. He had artists come by and take his ideas and generate images for him.
Ralph McCoy.
Yeah. It's a key one.
Yeah.
And they would generate images based off of his ideas and his script. And then he would look at those and say, no, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then they'd come up with a collection of images. And then they'd pass those on to the modeling group.
Yep.
And then they would create models. And he'd come and look at it and like, yes, no, yes, no. And the same thing, did he invent all the computer technology necessary to be able to do all the shots that they did? No.
Yeah.
But he's known for that. Did he create Star Wars? Yes. Was he involved in creating every little aspect of it? No.
Yep.
It took an entire team. So I kind of view myself in like that same role. I'm the visionary. I'm writing the script. I know what I want. I know what the end result should be. And I know how to pick and choose between everything that's being done for me to create that end product that I want.
Awesome statement. And I'll just say, George Lucas is an artist, regardless of how many tools he used. You know,
Yeah, that's it. There was all tools. You know, he could not have created that without all the tools.
without all the tools. And you know,
And AI is just a tool to me.
one of the smartest run-throughs I've heard yet on that.
I have gone through feeling guilty that it's easier for me to create an image than it is for someone who's doing tactile art. You know, and I can do it faster, and it might take them a month to do something that takes me an hour. And I feel, I don't know if guilty is the right word, but I feel like unfair maybe. But this is the choice of tools that I've made. I chose to work with these tools rather than with brushes and paints because I don't have comfort in the skill level I need to work with the paints and the brushes or the pencils or watercolors or whatever. And so is it unfair that I can produce more faster and maybe even more detailed? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's unfair. Maybe it's not unfair. But I will say there's a lot of artists out there that I look up to because their works are incredible and they do everything by hand. There's a lot of artists who do things digitally that I looked up to too, they do things with the computer. It's people say it's not art, but art is what you feel from it. And it all comes down to, and I've said this before, it all comes down to, do you want to hang it on your wall? Do you like it enough that you want to hang it on your wall? If you do, great, buy it and hang it on your wall. If you don't, no problem. You know, if you just want to look at it on the screen, no problem. But if it touches you enough, does it really matter whether it was painted by hand, painted by a computer, or painted by a human on a computer, or how it was created? You know, some people dump paint on a canvas, and people hang that on their wall because they like it. Yeah. Is that skillful? Is that artistic? That's not up to me to decide. If the works I create inspire you enough that you want to purchase them and put them on the wall, then I've done a good job. Because it's come out of my mind and it's come out of my decisions and my love of what I've put together there. Whether you want to say I created it or not, it didn't exist before I did what I did, and it didn't exist until it came out of my head. So at some point I created this, like George Lucas created Star Wars. And if you like that enough to hang it on your wall, then I think I did a good job.
I'm going to thank you for coming into the studio with us today. It's
Thank
been
you.
really great to have you here, my friend. It's really nice to meet you personally for the first time.
Thank you. It's
It's
exciting.
been really neat. So I'm Scott Usher. This has been Haven Light Artist Spotlight, and you have met Greg Collins today.